It's Thursday, February 7th, Friday, February 8th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show wherever you may listen, including digitally on Deep Talk Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, go shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store because you need one of our t-shirts or hats, and read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel Nsuho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Head to our website, click on the Nsuho banner, and subscribe to the channel today. Every second month, we get a visit from one of our favorite authors, as Varla Ventura is back to discuss the weird creatures that lurk around us. The author of 6 books, which can be found on her website, varlaventura.net, Varla enjoys the chase and the lore that surrounds everything from the Fae all the way over to the Bigfoot and so much more. It's the fact that people keep reporting these strange sightings that keeps Varla venturing into the obscure topics. And really, who can blame her? She's having fun, it's a passion, and there's desire to try and bring these stories to light that keeps her writing. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, we have Olaf Phillips from Paranoia Magazine back for the SOR Newswire. Varla, it's been a couple of months. Last time we had you on, we were talking Krampus for December. And we decided to wing it tonight. We have no idea where we're going. We'll just let the audience decide if they're in the chat rooms, but we do have some ideas. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, anything could happen tonight, really.
Oh,
anything.
For sure. Absolutely. What have you been up to? How's the start of 2019 for you?
2019 has been, for a second, I just thought, is it 2019 or 2020? Projecting into the future. Yeah, 2019 has been very fruitful so far. Actually, I've been incredibly inspired. Anyone who works in any of the creative arts knows how fickle that can be. You can have a lot of ideas, but not necessarily be able to do anything with those. And I have been really inspired just in the last couple of months. Maybe it's the kind of hunkering down for winter sort of feeling post-holiday, like just get all that stuff out of the way and now we can move on. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to, I've started a little research on my next book, including arranging a tropical research trip. So I have much to look forward to in the coming months.
When you are discussing these topics, and especially in the world now of self-publishing, there are so many different books out there on every subject. Bigfoot, Dogman, fairies, magic, whatever you want to call it. And yet, for authors such as yourself, this is how you make your living. This is how you make your money. You got to be going all the time. How do you keep it fresh and make it stand out comparatively, Varla, to other people who just have an idea that they want to write a book on whatever topic may be?
Well, I have always been a fan of traditional publishing for that reason, because I think that as a creative person and as a writer, I have lots of ideas, and there are a lot of people out there with lots of ideas, and it's really important to kind of have other perspectives and a team working with you. For example, with my books, I have some incredible design, and it's something I'm very proud of that I didn't do. That wasn't my doing. That was, there were a couple different designers involved in the process. The book covers were mostly done by a wonderful man named Jim Warner, who unfortunately died a year ago, almost a year and a half ago. But he did incredible work finding some of these really unique images. And so I worked so well with my publisher to kind of create a package so that the books were something that weren't just any, paperback you could grab off the shelf. Now, I am also a voracious reader, so I don't really judge a book by its cover so much as that if it's a topic that I want to know about and it's self-published and you could just get it, wham bam on Amazon, or you can find it on a shelf in your local bookstore at half off or whatever. I'm not real judgmental. I'm an acquirer of books and knowledge. But I do think that there's something to that process when you have, designers, editors, copy editors. They're critiquing you before the general audience even sees it, and so it does give you, or at least it gives me, a bit. So authors are by nature sort of insecure people, I think, like writers are. They're not like stage performers. We're generally sort of extroverted introverts. We want to tell you all the secrets, but we don't necessarily want to tell you, in front of a microphone. So our microphone is a microphone like this is perfect, right? Because you can't, there's not that pressure of an audience or anything like that. But there's nothing more nerve-wracking than sending your work into your publisher or your editor and waiting to hear how they're going to destroy it. And I think there's something very beautiful in that process that really helps writers become better writers, and certainly have helped me become a better writer over the years. And so I think, my most recent book is, in terms of the writing and the structure and the way I put it together, I think it's a stronger book than the book of the Bazaar, Beyond Bazaar. I just think, just in terms of the writing style, has evolved to be more of what I wanted it to be. So I think that's really, for me, I write about subjects that I'm interested in. I write about them in a way that I like to read, and I hope that other people enjoy it. And that I'm lucky enough to have this relationship with a publisher that allows sort of a beautiful product to come out of it, and something that I'm very proud of, and I think they're very proud of. So it's I guess the answer is that you can't only rely on yourself in that situation. You rely on your readers, you rely on feedback, and you rely on your editor very heavily. And you rely on your publisher to kind of keep you on track, because writers tend to, go completely off track. And then that's, the publisher or the editor will call you up and say, okay, so this isn't what you originally said you were going to write, which has happened to me a couple of times. This is, you've diverted a little bit. And I also have been on the other end of that and worked with other authors as their editor. And I've had the very painful task of telling, as a writer, it was especially painful for me to have to tell people, look, your work is wonderful, but this is completely different than what you were contracted for. And how are we going to get to this place in between? And that also sometimes meant letting go and letting the writer take hold, or letting them have their creative process, and then doing the laborious and painful task of, editing can be very painful, because that every word was written with some kind of intention, whether it needed to be there or not. So as an editor, I'm a bit of a jerk. And as a writer, I'm, a total baby. So that's good. So in between, sometimes I am actually, a upright human.
With the topics that you choose, and you've written a plethora of paranormal type books, 6 of them to be exact, and that can be found at varlaventura.net. When you choose these topics, whatever type of creature or character it is, how do you go about choosing that? How do you go about researching it? Because the majority of the stories that you are going after, although they may be true accounts, to most they are just folklore. So I think it's a combination of like, for example, with the Book of the Bazaar, which was kind of my first foray into this genre, that is a book that is basically just weird trivia. There's ghost stories in there. There's freaky facts. There's weird laws. There's just kind of it's sort of a book that you can just
open and read for a few minutes and then sit down. And it's sort of a like trivia meets, I don't know, Ripley's Believe It or Not or something like that. And it was a kind of book that I really enjoyed reading as a teenager, especially just these kind of weird 40 in Times and wonderful Fate magazine and things like that. So I think that was sort of a book that came from a conversation. Boy, you're always spouting off all these strange facts. Why don't you, have you ever thought of, putting that into a book, doing sort of bizarre trivia? Oh, you mean like a book of bizarre? Oh, okay. So then that sort of evolved into the Book of the Bizarre, and then Beyond Bizarre, which I originally wanted to name Bride of Bizarre, but the publisher talked us out of that. And by the royal we, it was probably a better decision because Bride of Bizarre doesn't have as much of a standalone. But I do a combination of things. I draw from things that I love first and foremost. So when I chose to write about mermaids, I drew on my favorite mermaid tale that I had heard as a child, which was the original Little Mermaid story by Hans Christian Andersen that haunted me my whole life because it's somewhat horrifying. This poor creature with walking on the sand, and as soon as she touches dry land, it's like daggers are ripping the soles of her feet, and she's bleeding upon the sand. And these were images that sort of stuck with me. So those are kind of usually the core when I'm working with magical creatures or fairies or folklore. There's always a few stories that I have held on to in my heart since I was, 6 or 7 years old, and carried with me, and they've influenced my view of the world. And so those are always just like the very first story that I go back and I reread and I re-examine as a grown up and see how I feel or what I know about folklore. And then after that, it just sort of becomes a rabbit warren, where you're just going from corner to corner and all of these things start to connect. And often some of those things become the next book or the next topic. So fairies was pretty challenging to decide what not to put in there. And again, that's where an editor comes into play, because you could have volumes and volumes and volumes, but honestly, nobody wants to read 800 words in one sitting. 800 pages. I hope they want to read 800 words in one sitting. Good Lord, what have we come to?
How do you go about, though, that and we'll get into the hardcore fun topics here in a moment, but the newer generation is known for not being into books as much as, say, the 30-plus crowd, the 40-plus crowd. How do you combat that to bring interest to people and get their nose back in a book rather than what they can see on a computer? Because that has to be the big one for a lot of authors these days.
Well, number one, I read real books. I buy real books. I frequent my library. I check out real books, and I am constantly seen reading books. And I also volunteer at the local school to read books and to talk about books and to bring books to the school, to the library, make donations, not my books, appropriate books. So I think that's just sort of modeling book behavior. But I do think that there's, and as I'm a mom and I have a young son, and he's an extraordinary reader, and it's probably the proudest thing I am of in above all my books or anything. It's the fact that my son loves to read. He never asks to watch television. He actually doesn't. It's amazing to me. And when he was of age enough to sort of sit and get lost in a book, and we sat, back to back on a couch with a cozy blanket, and I read my own book and he was reading his own book, that was just like a high point for me in my life. And I think that this I agree that there's a gap of a generation that just sort of wants everything available. But I do think that there's a generation after that, a younger generation who are just sort of coming to be, 16, 17, 18 now, who they like typewriters. They like vinyl. They grew up with computers and technology and, phones and all this stuff. And not that they are going to live without phones or go and live off grid, but I see an interest in these things. And I've had this discussion with people about using Kindles versus reading books, and what difference does it make? You're reading, you're buying, you're reading. And I don't begrudge anyone their format for reading. Some people need the larger print. Some people want to carry their 10,000 book library around with them, not walk around with a cart full of books. So I think the only thing you can really do is just sort of in terms of keeping book publishing alive is to support other authors and, to actually buy a book now and again and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy this book and I'm not necessarily going to buy it cheapest version. I'm going to buy it brand new. I'm going to buy it hardcover. And I know a lot of us don't have disposable income to be spending $25 on a new volume of a book every week, but there's also your library, and that creates demand. Libraries buy books based on demand. So, and then I also just always have books around me. So even if people stop publishing books, I would just live in oblivion in my own tome of, my own underground library full of books. And I would pretend that books were still being printed.
Well, let's get to it tonight, because in the end, it's great to have that great piece of knowledge about writing and how we go there. But you are known around here as kind of a cryptid, supernatural folklore author who likes to talk about some of the weird and strange that have been seen. And one of the topics that has come up recently, especially on Twitter, from Michelle, and she has been nagging me for 3 weeks, in a good way, about asking you about trolls. Do they exist? So why don't we start there tonight, as we got about 5 minutes before we got to go to break.
Okay, great. Well, absolutely. Trolls are 100% real. In my world, they're real. And there are a lot of variations on trolls. So I'll just start with the caveat that with many sort of folkloric creatures, many things in the fairy kingdom, many variations of stories and myths and trickster entities and all of these different things, every group, every place has their own. It's like having your own dialect. Even within a family, you might have your own language. And so what we have today is the sort of anglicized written record of many of these things. So you have to kind of consider your sources and, where these things are coming from in the world. And in other words, what you might call a troll, someone else might call a goblin or something like that. But most interesting about trolls for me, when I was researching the fairy book that I wrote, Fairies, Spookles, and Changelings, it was that I found this wonderful story about Scandinavian trolls. And it surprised me because I, like many of us, thought of trolls as these, sort of guardian, slightly grumpy creatures that lived under bridges, which they often are found by water, and they often are considered guardians. But in this particular story, it was about a troll wedding. And I was quite surprised by it because these trolls were beautiful. They were unusually tall, very shimmery. These are these Scandinavian trolls. And all kinds of strange things took place when they were having their wedding ceremony. It was much like any kind of party you've imagined in a fairy kingdom where there's, overflowing wine and all of these kinds of things, tinkling glasses. But as soon as anybody came as soon as it was held in this cabin high up in the woods, these trolls just sort of took it over and had a troll wedding. They're just going to have a troll wedding. So there were these little creatures. There were these massive, beautiful, shimmering beings. And then and this was completely bizarre to me, but as soon as the trolls were spotted, or they could hear that the mortals were coming back to the area near this cottage, they all disappeared, and the bride turned into a roll of yarn and then rolled away down the hill. And I thought, well, that is just a bizarre story. And it was a woman named Clara Strobe who wrote it, and she wrote it in the 19-teens. And it was obviously her variation of something that she had heard, and a little bit of imagination in there. But I thought, why on earth would that even come up? Why did this troll turn into a ball of yarn? Well, it turns out that trolls have not only hang out under bridges to protect people or guard whoever is crossing over and guard the land beyond, but they also protect sheep and goats and other livestock. And especially in parts of Scandinavia, they would be associated as sort of like guardian creatures that would, keep the goats and keep the sheep. And so I think that the connection with the wool and the this little ball of yarn that rolled away really kind of came from some deeper folklore that I started delving into about this connection between these troll spirits and, livestock, which then led me down the goaty road, which, across cultures, livestock come into play in terms of folklore. So I think a big reason for that is that livestock are called livestock. They sustain us. And so we need ways to protect and look after them. And what better way than to ensure that the gods, the goddesses, the spirits, the elementals, the fairies, whatever our group and our culture is believing in, is protecting that livestock.
Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Her website, varlaventura.net. She has 6 books for you to choose from there. And every couple of months, she comes to pay a visit to us. Because we love talking trolls, gnomes, fairies, mermaids, Bigfoot, Dogman, and whatever else we can fit in with Varla. More Spaced Out Radio and more troll talk coming up.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject, from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, This is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters tonight. Don't forget, you can visit our website, spacedoutradio.com. Head over to our store. We got some great swag for you to pick up. Make sure you go get some, because you'd look good in one of our t-shirts, hoodies, hats. Even the socks look pretty bad in a good way. Tonight we are talking with Varla Ventura. We're talking all things cryptid, supernatural, folklore, legends, lore, as varlaventura.net is her website. She comes in every couple of months to talk about these weird, strange creatures. And Varla, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
We are talking trolls right now. Now, when I think trolls,
troll talk,
I think gnomes. I think little people. I think these little weird cryptids in Iceland that they are actually building roads around their area where these little trolls have been spotted because you don't want to upset the apple cart in their area for bad luck. There are a lot of cultures out there that really pay homage to the trolls.
Yes, well, one of the things that I think happens, especially in, sort of our modern times, modern supernaturalists that we are, and I kind of talked about this before, that you do end up with sort of an umbrella term for a creature that somebody else might call a gnome. But one thing that is very common about trolls is that they are associated with rocks and stone. As much as they're associated with bridges or passing, they are also often associated with sort of craggy places. And this connects them very strongly to mining spirits, which are also commonly known as dwarves, sometimes known as Tommyknockers, sometimes known as knockers, and a few other, terms are out there. So because there are rocks and streams and bridges around the world, we have different terms for these little creatures. But we do often, probably most often, are associating trolls with sort of that Scandinavian idea of like a dwarfy-like creature, something with a beard. Not to bring up garden gnomes again.
Oh, hold on. What's wrong with the beard? What's wrong with the beard? Because I'm only 5'8" and 3/4, and I got a big bushy beard right now.
So
could I qualify for a troll?
I think in Scandinavia you might, but in
they're tall.
In Canada,
tall people there.
You're just regular. I think, like just an awesome guy that isn't troll-like. But I do think that the idea that a troll is small is something that I always just assumed trolls were small. I did. I thought of trolls as something kind of more on the gnome spectrum, I guess. And I think because they are sometimes associated with rocks, with mining, this is what happens. I mean, this is what happened to me when I was writing this book about the fairy kingdom, is that what I thought of as a troll, or what I would have called a dwarf because of just my upbringing and the kind of folklore and stories I had heard, other people were referring to as something else entirely. And then I came upon this story about these beautiful, giant creatures. And then I started thinking, well, there's a giant sort of troll under the bridge in Seattle. And there's the idea of this kind of giant being that comes out and says, who's going to pass over my bridge? but who does he say that to? He says it to like goats, right? So again, we have this goat connection. So it just, the whole thing sort of starts cycling, where you realize that there are these magical creatures, trolls, fairies, gnomes, whatever kind of name you have for them. And they are called different things and sometimes serve different purposes, but they are universal. In indigenous cultures around the world, you have examples of some kind of rock-dwelling creature, some kind of, woodland, forest-dwelling creature, some kind of water creature. And that's why mermaids, when I wrote about mermaids, it became a whole book in and of itself, not just about your classic mermaid, but about, all of these variations on water spirits and water fairies and, different stories and things like that. So I guess just to give, the sort of basic definition of a troll, or what I think people commonly associate with a troll, I find it difficult, but I can tell you what I think is that a troll is a guardian spirit, and it protects a particular area. Frequently, that can be a passage into another place. So they are guardians of sort of, for lack of a better term, a portal. Now that portal can be water, it can be a well, or it can be a passage into the earth. But I do think that trolls get a bad rap. And, there's this wonderful movie that was also kind of really hyped up called Trolls, not the one with the little guys that they spin their hair and it sticks out. Not the kids one, but there was a movie that came out a few years ago, and I want to say it was Icelandic or something like that, but it was called Trolls, and it was, it was a little freaky and a little scary. I don't think they're necessarily scary, creepy creatures, but I do think that they command a certain amount of reverence and a certain amount of respect for whatever area you're in. So if you go and you start, throwing your beer bottles into the creek, then yeah, it's entirely possible that the troll might creep out from under the bridge and bash you over the head with a rock. I mean, these are the repercussions of your irresponsible actions toward nature.
So what is the big difference between, say, a troll, a gnome, wood nymphs? Because we hear of these mythological wood nymphs that run around the forest protecting nature, cleaning up garbage. I mean, that's all part of the legend and lore, obviously. But we hear about these. Are they all related in some way or another, or is this just something that is separate creatures altogether?
So to me, these are all members of the fairy kingdom. And so I do think that people, when they hear the word fairy, they automatically think something very Tinkerbell-like. It's perfectly understandable. That's sort of what is culturally commonly associated when we think of fairies. We think of a little winged being that, flits from petal to petal. But fairy, in fact, and the kingdom of the fae, it's much like the kingdom of fungi. It's a massive, massive kingdom under which all of these creatures fall. So the unifying umbrella for any of these creatures is actually that they are of the fairy realm, which is kind of this, realm that exists at the same time as ours, or on fairy time. I think we've talked about fairy time a little bit, where that sort of Rip Van Winkle effect can happen in fairy time. It can seem like only minutes have gone by, and you come back and it's been years. It's not unlike alien abduction stories where, you're found wandering naked along a road and you're not sure what happened to you, but you definitely drank something from the Queen's cup. You just, I don't know what happened, but so there are differences within this. If you think of it, I like to think of it sort of the way we classify plants. So you have, the great plant kingdom, and then you have all of these different genus and all of these different species, and then all of these different varieties of all of these different species. So it's not unlike that, and it actually is a good way to look at it, because it is also sort of a nature classification. So you might have the kingdom of fairy, and then you would have trickster fairies, and then you would have, woodland fairies. So I would consider even mermaids within that kingdom of the fae, and within that kingdom of fairy, or magical creatures, whatever you want to call them. Some people call them cryptids, mostly because they don't have, they're not really classified any other way. But I think of it in sort of a class of, here's your big umbrella term, and then you've got these other subspecies and subspecies. And then, of course, they're connected, just like, many plants have similar traits that allow them to, pollinate or reseed themselves, or some are, they're tubers, and some are, wind pollinated, and all these kind of different variations on botany that we have. We have that also with the fairy kingdom. So I think that's where we can get lost, but also where we can find that kind of connecting thread between all of these different creatures.
The crypto guru Ronald Murphy, who will be on the show next Friday, he tends to believe that even Bigfoot is part of the fairy culture and the fae lore. What's your stance on that?
Totally agree. I think that there are Bigfoot-ish legends in a lot of different cultures. There are, I guess if you think about something like a wild cat, in Florida, you have panthers, but in Northern California, you have the mountain lion. So they are big cats, but they are very different in appearance, and not incredibly different in behavior, but certainly different in habitat. So I see that with something like a Bigfoot. Some people relate the Bigfoot to something that looks more wolf-like or more bear-like, and other people consider it something more dog-like or something that is more ape-like, depending on what you see and what you associate it with. But I certainly would put it in that category of sort of, unknown beasts. And I do also, when I think of Bigfoot, I cannot help but think of a lot of the werewolf stories and werewolf origin stories and similar kind of shapeshifters that have evolved from other animals and animal legends, such as, doing something involving a ritual that involves a bear, or a ritual that involves a werewolf, or a wolf, I should say. So I agree.
Do you believe then, in regards to Bigfoot, because I'm a firm believer that there is something supernatural about it. I can only go by my own experience. I cannot go by anything that anybody else has researched. That's just my opinion. Do you believe then that if they are part of the troll family, that entire fae group is some sort of supernatural, interdimensional type being, or do you believe they are a physical entity?
I believe that they are a physical entity that does not always exist on the same physical plane as us. So in other words, I guess the two ways of looking at it. Are Bigfoot always out there crouching in the woods, physically just one tree beyond your scope of view? Or can Bigfoot sort of flit in and out, much like, people view a ghost? And that I don't know. I can't say definitively, but my opinion would be that they are doing their thing and they are existing, much like fairies are out there doing their thing. Trolls are out there doing their, the trolls are busy at work. The gnomes are busy at work. The hobgoblins are busy at work. And just as you have with ghost or a psychic experience, you can't be psychic 100% of the day. You can be a psychic person. You can have psychic experiences. But if you were psychic 100% of the day, you would basically just be sitting there without being able to have a normal thought at all. You wouldn't be able to function. So these kind of encounters that we have are times when, for whatever reason, everything sort of comes together. Maybe it's a warning. You have gone too far into the woods and the Bigfoot is the least of your concerns. Maybe it's to scare you off. Don't go into the bog, or Peg will reach out her branchy hands and pull you down when you think you're standing on dry land. Or maybe it's hey, you're on the right path, and I'm going to give you this little image of me and this experience with me because I trust you. Or maybe it's, I really like the cake you leave me and I'm going to tidy up your house. But it's sort of I consider it a parallel kind of world. Maybe it's an invisible world, but it is certainly not on the same time plane. It's sort of just like another little circle around ours, I guess. So I think that at any given point, you could encounter any of these things, but that's why you can't encounter them whenever you want. You can't walk into a forest and call out Bigfoot. It doesn't really work that way. And if you do, then you might not live to tell the tale, really. But by and large, I find that the Bigfoot experiences that I have heard, and that I personally have never had a Bigfoot experience. I've never had anything quite like that on the monumental cryptid scale. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, enough to know that I don't know, who am I to judge if somebody has had a Bigfoot experience, but I have had enough people that I know and I trust tell me things that they've encountered in dark woods, and people who are very experienced in the forest. It's not just somebody setting out and not familiar with the ground and not familiar with the calls in the night. They have had some experiences as well. So I definitely believe in them. Don't know that they're really that definable.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She comes in every couple of months to talk all things strange and folklorish. Varla, we only got a couple of minutes before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. In regards to this fact that a lot of people believe that there are some sort of interdimensional type species, have you ever heard reports of people seeing portals or some sort of doorways that these creatures seem to huddle in and out of?
Oh, yes. If you want to find the portals, you just need to, get to know your local witch, and they'll point you in the right direction directly. I mean, honestly, there are, I have traveled quite a bit in Ireland and not enough in England and Scotland, but enough to know that in any town, in of any size, especially the smaller towns, there's always someone who knows, and they know where the well is that you can draw healing waters from. They know where to find the stones that are set in such a way that they mark a sacred place. So I think absolutely, I don't think they're necessarily lurking back there, waiting to spring out, but that would be kind of amazing if that were the case. But I absolutely think there are passages to and fro, and that is evident throughout the folkloric record throughout the world. You see the idea of passages, of portals, of, stones that move, or rabbit holes that you can fall into.
So what do you think is on that other side? Is it much like Alice in Wonderland, or do you think that it opens up maybe to another world on the same timeline?
Oh, well, I would hope that it's like Alice in Wonderland, but I honestly think it's probably a little bit trickier than that. It probably seems a little more real. and it may take you more to get your bearings to understand, although she does struggle with understanding if it's real or it's, she kind of accepts it because she's a young child. But I think it's probably a little bit more ordinary than we would expect it to be. And that's part of its trickery. That's part of like, I've been walking for miles. I'm so hungry. I'm going to just eat this beautiful spread that I just happened to go by this park and it's laid out on this rock. Well, that's a fatal mistake. Never eat anything in the fairy kingdom.
How come?
Well, because you won't return. That's pretty much how they get you. Now, I know that sounds appealing to many of us. Fine, I'll give me a ticket, straight passageway right into the fairy kingdom. But the problem with the fairy kingdom is that it is one of glamour. In other words, it's one of things are not always as they appear. So you can be bewitched and you can think that everything's wonderful and you're at this wonderful party and you're eating the most incredible food. But in time, you will find that your human spirit is wasting away and that you lose whatever link you had to the world. And like many characters and many stories, you will find yourself full of regret for all of those people and the things you thought you'd never miss now being so far away. And then once you've eaten or drinking anything in the fairy kingdom, you are basically enslaved. So if you're okay with that and you can accept that and accept your fate, then by all means. But if you ever want to come back, don't do it.
Well, if they have a healthy supply of chicken wings and tacos and poutine, I may make that trip, man. I would make that trip. And big, juicy, greasy burgers, too. That might be worth it.
Are there tacos in the fairy kingdom?
Oh, wow. Wow, I don't know.
It's not like heaven.
I could
where
dream.
You just get to pick whatever you want.
I could dream, Varla. You hold on. We're going to go to break here. And Varla Ventura is our guest tonight. We'll be back with hour number 2. Varla Ventura talking more weird creatures after this. Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social media freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social media freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today. The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hi, George and Ori here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have each and every one of you with us. Tonight on the show, or tomorrow night on the show, Ronald Farnham joins us. We're going to talk flat earth and other strange conspiracies. We get going at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back each and every one of you on our terrestrial affiliates, including our brand new affiliate that started this week, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. Great to have you with us, along with WQEE 99.1 FM in New Orleans, UPRN, and on the digital side, we have Revolution Radio and our home at Deep Talk Radio Network. Good to have you all with us. Don't forget, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Incunabula. Incunabula is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, go shopping right now at our Spaced Out Radio store, because you would look great in one of our t-shirts, hats, hoodies, socks, you name it. We got it. And of course, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. We are talking with author Varla Ventura tonight. Her website, varlaventura.net. She comes in every couple of months to discuss anything that's folklorish, legendary. If it's trolls, we're on it. Bigfoot, you name it. Mermaids, we got it. Varla, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's already, the hour has flown by.
Why do you think so many people have these experiences with like trolls, gnomes, fairies?
Ultimately, I think it's to teach us a lesson. And I think that that's at the core of most stories and most folklore and most even anecdotal stories. For myself, I can only really truly speak for myself when I think of the times that I have had an experience, a paranormal experience or a supernatural experience, and then reflect back on it and think what was actually significantly happening in my life, what choices I was making. Was I, doing things that I shouldn't be doing or doing things I should be doing? I think that in many, many ways, these old tales that have been passed down from generation to generation, which we so often dismiss as being myth or stories, I guess I say I don't think there's anything wrong with it being myth or stories, because the idea of what we're learning from them it remains the same. And I'm not here to judge if somebody's truly telling a story about Bigfoot, or they're just saying something because they, want to join in the Bigfoot circle, or, I don't know, what for whatever reasons. But I do think that people have these experiences for a reason, and that if you do have an experience like this, no matter how scary or unexplained or perplexing it is, it should be considered a gift, because not everyone has these experiences. Not everyone has that little glimmer of the second sight. Not everybody gets to experience that. And I have met many people who spent years in the paranormal field who hadn't really had an experience. until much later, or, eventually, or sometimes not at all. They're just interested in the field, much like someone would be interested in any other, in like a scientific field, or maybe you're interested in a certain topic. So, but by and large, I think that we have these experiences and we share them collectively, and why I like to write about them and why I like to hear other people's stories and listen to what other people have to say about these experiences, is because I think there's something in there collectively that we are supposed to learn, that we're supposed to take away. And that can be as simple as, don't go into that part of the woods. Maybe there's a low-lying disease underneath the moss. Maybe there's actually what one culture is calling a, monster. It could actually be a poisonous eel. There's a lot of ways to look at it, and I'm not saying to explain away folklore or original tales by any means, but I think that we have these encounters to remind us of many things. Sometimes it's to warn us of danger. Sometimes it's to remind us that we don't know everything. And sometimes it's a cautionary tale that we tell in order to keep our family and our livelihood safe. So even an individual family has its own folklore and its own mythology about members of the family and the way that we do things and the way we retell things. And I think we need that in order to kind of personalize and experience everyday life in our own beautiful way. But with something like, somebody being out and encountering a Bigfoot, or Bigfoot is just this phenomenon that it's almost like you can explain, a troll encounter easier than you can explain a Bigfoot encounter. And there's so much disbelief and confusion, and people are unsure that we're always so quick to dismiss what somebody tells us as, I'm sure it was just a bear or a panther or some kind of, other animal that you weren't used to. And sometimes, you read these stories of medieval times with these ferocious wolf beasts that were thought to be werewolves that were actually rabid animals. So there's a lot of variations there. But I think without this sort of unknown part, we would be left with only the tangible in front of us. And if we have only the tangible in front of us, then how do we imagine anything beyond that? So we need these experiences just to evolve our own creativity. And it's the same creativity that will invent, a cure for previously thought incurable disease. It's the same creativity that will create a painting or a work of art. It's the same ability to think beyond your own space and your own everything that and you could touch in front of you. That allows us to look beyond and look into the universe and just sort of, look throughout the world. And without that creativity, we're just cavemen, right? We're not, even cavemen had creativity.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, talking all things supernatural and folklorish. Got a couple questions from our audience tonight. We're going to start off on Twitter with Andrew. And Andrew has really nice hair, so we always like to make sure we point that out for him. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. At least his pictures show that. I know he's laughing in North Vancouver right now. And Andrew is asking, Varla, it's said when someone hears fairy music, then it means the fairies like that person. In your experience, is this true, and why is this?
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. And I think it is another way. So people who have had any kind of paranormal or supernatural experience will probably understand that not everybody has the same thing, right? So like you might see a ghost. I might hear a ghost. Someone else might sense a ghost. Someone else might be able to do all of those things. And I think that the fairy kingdom is quite similar. Some people might actually see a fairy, but it's almost like there are certain levels. Not that one is necessarily better than the other, but fairy music can be incredibly enchanting, and it also can be sort of a signal to say, like, we hear you, do you hear us? It's a test. Do you hear me? Yes, okay, you just heard that strange noise, and it must have been somebody driving by in their car or whatever. We always try and explain these things away. But I do think that that's a way of knowing that the fairies can see you, that they're watching you. And I think it's a very special thing. I have heard a couple things. I've had very few indications actually in my life that these things are 100% with me. But I've had enough to know that something helped me in the woods. I was completely lost. I was a young kid and I was totally lost in the woods and had been kind of out partying. I was like 12 years old. I'd been out partying. I use that in quotes, but, just out with a bunch of friends and wandered away from the campfire and was just kind of goofing off. And I just sort of got lost. I didn't really know where I was. And something helped me. Some sort of, wood nymphy type thing sort of wrapped itself around me and guided me back to the other place. Which then I was able to see the firelight. And so I've had a few things like that I can't say, I saw this thing dancing in front of me and it was, definitely a troll and it led me away. But lots of people have seen things like that. But back to fairy music, I absolutely think that fairy music is an indication, and it also can be I've talked a little bit in the past about changelings, which are the sort of fairy switch where a fairy baby is left in place of a human baby and the human baby is taken away. And with that fairy switch, you have a human who is sort of raised in the fairy kingdom. And so they may walk among us and seem to look just like us, but they might have some kind of almost unearthly quality to them. Often you see that with musicians. You see this sort of ability to tap into this other realm with their voice or with music that they play. And sometimes that can be an indication that that person, way back when is the descendant of a changeling.
Much like today being the 57th birthday of W. Axl Rose.
There you
Changeling,
go. Yeah.
The legend. Yes, because I was looking for a place to get that in. Andrew's
right?
Yeah, of course. Andrew's follow-up question is, what is fairy music all about then?
Well, I think it's fairies like music just like we like music. It's just another way of communicating, right? Some people write, some people talk. Some fairies appear, some fairies recount stories or, try and escape from you or try and capture you or all of these different things. But the music is just another way of communicating. And I think it's also a softer way if something were to just show up in your yard and say, hey, you want to go for a ride? And, you'd be totally thrown off. But if you were to hear this music that might sort of enchant you or bring you to this other realm, I think music in itself is a very transformative and very shamanistic thing. It can take us completely out of our bodies. It can, relax us. It can excite us. It can, make us throw our bodies wildly into the mosh pit with no care for our own personal safety. Music can do that to us in a way that other things can't. And, fairies are wiser than us to that.
Mm-hmm. Now let's get over to Mike's question. He is asking, have you ever researched Dogman, and what's your thoughts on that theory?
So Dogman is interesting because I have actually quite a few relatives from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan where there have been a number of Dogmen sightings. prior to visiting them in that area, and if you've never been to the UP, you might be more inclined to dismiss these things. But when you've been to the UP, you come to understand that, and I don't mean to say that it is desolate or, a abandoned place by any means, but it is not. You drive from hours to get to a pretty decent sized city. And I'm not saying it's devoid of culture or it doesn't have some incredible attributes. In fact, it's some of the most pristine and beautiful country I've ever seen. But it is pretty isolated, and there are, your cell doesn't work. And there are a lot of places where you can go and not see any other person. There have been a number of sightings in that area of something very dogman-like. And by dogman, I guess we're just talking about something that seems doggish and also mannish, much like a werewolf. Werewolves are also very common in northern Wisconsin, which is not that far from the UP. So there are a lot of dog-like creatures. I mean, anytime I think of dogmen, I cannot help but think of werewolves. And, werewolf mythology goes back thousands of years. And in some cases, you have people who are werewolves because they're cursed. In other cases, it's not unlike the idea of the Irish Selkie, where you put a skin on and then you transform into this being. Well, there are a lot of sort of shape-shifting stories about putting on a werewolf skin or a wolf skin and then therefore becoming a wolf. One thing that's very similar to dogmen and werewolves is that there are frequent sightings. Usually livestock are killed, and there always seems to be this tinge of regret behind the story. So the dogman is super, super elusive, but doesn't sound that dissimilar to me to werewolf stories that I've heard throughout North America, Europe, even South America, and you get into South and Central America, you get the chupacabra, which is sort of a doggy vampire-like thing. It's been spotted in Puerto Rico. It's been spotted in Central America. I've had people, a friend from El Salvador, tell me the story of their own sort of variation on the chupacabra, which was this sort of beast that came into the fields. And, the lore was that it was some kind of vampiric creature that came in and ripped the animal to shreds. But some people had also spotted this kind of tarantula that would bite the leg of some kind of cattle and it would infect it. And then wolves or coyotes would come in and descend upon it. So you have all kinds of lore about dog-like creatures from all around the world. I have never actually interviewed somebody who has seen the dogman. I have read accounts and I have done extensive research and talked with people extensively about werewolves and the Beast of Bray Road and things of that nature. But I find them all very, very connected. It's hard to distinguish them when you start looking at all of the similarities.
Do you believe a lot of these creatures give off some sort of energetic signal to would-be trespassers in their area to let them know that, we're here, we're watching you, and we're here to send off this energy to make you a little uncomfortable so you leave?
I certainly think there's a protective sort of animalistic element to a lot of those things. Yeah, absolutely. Don't venture too far into the woods. And nature has a lot of ways of trying to keep us away from the more sensitive parts of the woods, or the desert or whatever it is. I've studied plants and herbalism enough to know that there are always warning signals on the edge of the forest, poison ivy or poison oak. poisonous berries. And those aren't there just arbitrarily. They don't just grow up like a weed. They're actually trying to protect a more sensitive and vulnerable part of the, the diversity of the forest. So I think that, animals and animal-like creatures and supernatural creatures naturally behave in the same way.
Let's go over to Revolution Radio as we have a couple of minutes here before we got to go to break. Stardust Man is asking, Varla, what is your theory on the movie Troll Hunter? And can the troll be that tall?
Oh, that's the movie I was thinking of earlier. I think I just called it Trolls, but it was called Troll Hunter. And I saw it a number of years ago. And when I read this particular account of these incredibly tall Scandinavian trolls, which I read after I had seen the movie, I realized that mythology in that part of the world, in Iceland and a lot of the Nordic countries, especially where, the Vikings really took their stronghold with their Norse mythology, the idea of a very large and powerful entity like that was absolutely prevalent throughout. And so, yes, I think that they probably are bigger than we imagined them to be at some point.
I think so, too. I don't think we have time for Andrew's question. Andrew, we'll get that at the other side of the break, if you don't mind. But when it comes to any of these creatures, is there a safety mechanism that you can break down in about 90 seconds that people should follow, whatever those warning signs may be?
Don't be an idiot.
First and foremost, yes.
90 seconds. Don't be an idiot. I guess I think your best bet is to retreat. They say with like a bear or something like that, you're supposed to make a lot of noise. I should think that your best bet is to retreat and retreat politely. The other thing that seems to work for people is pull out your camera, because there's nothing more elusive than trying to get footage of a chupacabra or a Bigfoot or some other kind of being. They seem to shy away and shimmy away from cameras. So that may actually be a great defense. But, I'd say pray if I was a praying type, but I'm not. So
you got to give it a shot, though. You have to. You got to give it a shot. I mean, when in doubt, try it. And you know what? I'm going to say this as we head out. I don't buy the camera thing, because when you see something that is so unbelievable that your mind cannot comprehend what your eyes are seeing, the last thing that's going through your mind, and I'm saying this from personal experience, is to pull out your camera. We can get Varla's opinion of that when we come back right after this. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight. Her website, varlaventura.net. You can pick up any of her 6 books right on her website. Go check them out. She's a great, great author, and she'll be back with me right after this on the Mighty SOR.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi, George and Ori here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Remember, you can always check out our store on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Click on the store banner. We got great swag for you to pick up. You'd look great in one of our t-shirts, hoodies, hats, socks, maybe even a towel. Then you could say, I'm a towel. I'm a Spaced Out Radio towel. I don't know why you'd want to say that, but you might. Tonight we are talking with Varla Ventura, her website, varlaventura.net. She comes in every couple of weeks, make that months, to talk about everything folklorish, legends, stories of strange cryptid-type creatures, and land of the fae. Varla, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I think the towel could substitute for pants, and that is probably a good thing for a lot of your listeners. You know, who needs pants? Just wrap a towel around you.
Yeah. Yeah, you haven't seen these ham hocks that I'm walking around on. It's not fun. Not fun at all. Nonetheless, I want to get to Andrew's question here, because this actually has come up a couple of times already tonight and in the past few days. And Andrew is asking if you have studied the work of David Paulides' Missing 411.
Not too much. Is it a more about alien abductions?
Well, he never really gives up what it is. He leaves that to his readership. But it's about all these people who go disappearing in state parks or weird disappearance type cases. And Andrew's
it's sort of like cold cases, right? Like unexplained disappearances. And could it be a human killer, or is it a Bigfoot, or is it aliens, or why is it happening? And he's kind of tying together all of these different disappearances, right? Like to kind of say this is happening all over the place.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So what he's asking is, these stories seem to point to some sort of creature abducting these victims. Do you think this is fairy related, but more on a darker side?
Well, I don't know about this specifically being fairy related, but I have thought many a time, and many a stories I have heard listening to late night radio and hearing people's experiences, especially when I was researching the fairy book. That's when I really started seeing a lot of connections between things like poltergeists and hauntings, and house fairies and hobgoblins, and disappearances or alien abductions, and what might be considered a trick or a trap into the fairy kingdom. So I don't know that that's what happens. I don't know that alien abductions are actually someone disappearing into the fairy realm. I don't know if fairies look like how people are describing these alien-like creatures, but I have read descriptions in very, very old folklore that kind of sound similar. So I don't know with the work of David, what's his last name? Paulides? Paulides. Yeah, I don't know that with the specific cases he's talking about, I could say like a blanket statement like, oh, that's obviously the fairy kingdom. But I wouldn't put it past the fairies at all. But I don't know. I don't associate, while I don't associate fairies with something incredibly delightful that are only here to, amuse you and make your flowers grow, I do think that there's any kind of death or illness that comes from a fairy encounter is usually because of human error. So, I to be perfectly honest, I think that it's difficult to really say it's all one thing. You probably have some kind of just people dying of exposure, some people dying at the hand of a human lover or, serial killer, some people dying at the hand of fairy, and some people dying, by their own hand. So when we match all these things up, it's difficult to say that it's all one thing. And I know that's kind of maybe what he's getting at or he's hinting at with his work, but I don't know. I certainly wouldn't put it all in one, put all my eggs in one basket, but I wouldn't discount the idea that it's some kind of, fairy disappearance or switch.
Do you think a lot of these people maybe just walk into a different dimension?
Or an old mine shaft?
Or maybe a hollowed out tree. We can do that.
A hollowed out tree.
Cover themselves with a towel. Why not?
Spaced out radio towel. They look great in the woods.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess I would say that I can really base it on what I've collected and read in the past. People who end up entering the fairy kingdom or are tricked by a puka generally aren't out there hunting pukas. They're wandering along a road a little too late at night. They've lost their way and they're trying to, make it home past midnight or before it turns midnight. So by that reasoning, I think these kinds of encounters with the fairy kingdom especially aren't necessarily going to be, it's going to take people by chance. Absolutely. And the deeper and further you get into the woods and the farther away you get from boops and beeps and, light pollution and all of those things, the more likely you are to have one of those encounters, because I do think that, fairies aren't particularly bold and they are a little trepidatious when it comes to humans trying to capture them, steal their gold, trick their way into their kingdom. So it's entirely possible.
Did you follow that story in North Carolina about the missing 3-year-old who said that he was with a bear for 2 days?
Yeah. And what's so interesting about that story is, first, the headlines are just like, yeah, the little boy was found. Everybody was rejoicing. It was such great news. And then it's sort of like, a few hours later, the next day, there's a little tiny mention of the bear thing at the bottom of the article. And then the third day after that, it kind of came out that the little boy was saying, reporters probably just kept digging, but the little boy was saying that it was a bear that helped him. And in the very first instance I saw about that, there was a comment from like the aunt or the mom, I can't remember which, that said, oh, well, his favorite book or, his favorite cartoon, I think it was his favorite book is about this like bear that helps kids. So immediately the tone was dismissal that this little boy was just making this up because he lived in this fantastical world. And to me, that was like, I just dislike that so much when accounts and things like that children say are dismissed to be fantastical and unreal. So I kind of took notice of that and did notice that, okay, this little boy is saying that a bear protected him. So I'm thinking like, oh, my mind's going all different kinds of places. You know what? Well, it could have been a bear. Absolutely. Do bears naturally understand that bears only really react when they're threatened. They don't come lumbering after humans unless you do something like, basically you make them mad. You get between them and their babies. These are the kinds of, when we have this bear roaring up on its hind legs coming after someone, it's usually because there's a couple of cubs hiding away and they're just trying to get you away. So for a bear, yeah, it sort of makes sense. Was it a bear? And then of course, my mind went, well, could it have also been, some other kind of extraordinary creature? Are extraordinary creatures like something like Bigfoot that different than, how much do we really know about animals and animal nature and what animals are like not around?
This is what I do. This is what I do know, because two of my best friends are very, very experienced outdoorsmen. They've been trackers, they've been guides, they're hunters, and in our area, you need to know the wilderness. Now, I realize that British Columbia is far away, 3,500 miles probably from North Carolina, but bears are bears, and it's hibernating season, number one. And number two, when bears come out of hibernation, they're cranky, very cranky and very hungry. Or if the bear decides it didn't get enough food to go into hibernation, they are very cranky and they are very hungry. A 3-year-old is an easy meal. It's a target. Like in my area, we don't let my 5-year-old son run around when the bears are feeding for hibernation. We just do not, because it's dangerous. A bear will take him down in a heartbeat because it's a free meal. And that's all they're looking for. And that's what nature is. However, when you get a 3-year-old in the middle of winter saying that he was with a bear, this is where I have a hard time believing that and think it could be something a little bit more, even though I know I'm in the minority, because of the way bears react. There was no claw marks, teeth marks, scratch marks on his clothing. That was said in the media reports. And this is where I'm kind of looking at this saying, okay, how is this an actual bear?
What I love about that, Dave, is that you're not dismissing the child's story immediately. You're not saying, oh, no, the kid's making it up. You're thinking, okay, if it's a bear, could it be something else? Could there be something else there? And that is kind of my main takeaway with that story. And I am in complete agreement with you that while it doesn't seem entirely plausible, although it's not impossible, I appreciate, and what I disliked about the media coverage that I read was how quick they were to dismiss that the child was just making up stories. Because I think we have this problem in our culture in general. We dismiss if a child says they see something, they have they see a ghost, or they have this kind of experience, or they say there's a monster under their bed. We dismiss it and we don't even ask them anything about it. We just say it's not real. leave a little nightlight on, and then we move on. And I think that actually can cause even more fear. And then you end up, this is this huge topic, but then you end up kind of, creating this fear-based environment in which people are raised, in which everything's sort of, fearful just beyond the periphery. And that might be an instinctive survival mechanism, but I wouldn't I would love to talk to that kid, right? It's like, tell me what you saw. What does it look like? Draw a picture of it. Obviously, I wouldn't sit down with this kid and make them do all of these things. But I do think that there's something more to the story, and something very beautiful and magical to the story that is easily dismissed because a 3-year-old is telling the tale. But how did this kid survive? The other thing that I wondered about was not necessarily that it was like a Bigfoot or something like that, but that it might have been sort of like a shapeshifter, like an entity, a protective spirit that kind of came in and took the form of a bear and made sure that this child was warm. That's just as plausible as it being, anything else.
Guardian angels, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Let's move on here to another question, as we have Varla Ventura, our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, author of 6 books, varlaventura.net, if you want to check her on out. And this question comes from Sharon. We're going to switch topics from potential imaginary bears over to vampires. And Sharon in Arkansas, I don't know why I have trouble saying that. Arkansas.
You're Canadian.
I apologize. That's true. She is asking, what are some famous vampires that we might not know of? And do you believe the first psychic vampire was a lover or a fighter?
Ooh. Well, these are great topic switching. I love talking about vampires. I was reading up on vampires earlier, actually reading an anthropology book and reading this article that was written, in like 2000 about vampires. And it was really interesting. So I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question? Some vampires we might not know about, because we kind of know about, like, we associate certain historical figures with vampires, such as Vlad the Impaler or Madame Bathory, who bathed in the blood of young girls in order to keep her incredible beauty. We associate that today with sort of vampires or vampiric behavior. But what I think we don't realize about vampires, and when I wrote a book about vampires, banshees, vampires, and werewolves, and I talked with I had a number of friends actually that identified as vampires, and they're still my friends today. One of them is what he considers living vampire. So they're kind of called like the Strigoi, and they are the living vampire, meaning that they had an awakening. They recognized that they were vampires, and in modern times, the last 20 years, recognized that they were vampires, sort of went through a transformation, and basically created a relationship not unlike sort of an S&M relationship with a donor who would be the submissive, and the dom would be the vampire who is feeding from this donor. But they would feed in a psychic and an intellectual and an emotional way, and sort of strengthen themselves, but not leave the person drained. And there's this whole movement toward responsible sort of psychic living vampires. Another friend of mine is considered, one of the vampire impresarios of the modern vampire movement. And he's more on the glamour end. So he's got this sort of magic and I won't say witchcraft, but there's certain elements to what he does that are akin to witchcraft. And he does things that, puts on these balls, in which I guess the glamour aspect in the old glamour way, and the old kind of, to learn your glamour was to learn witchcraft, was to sort of learn this bewitching behavior that transformed you and brought you into another place and time and dimension, and you were able to, create spells and create, an entire world. In that sort of aspect of glamour, his sect of the vampire community still lives that today, and puts on vampire balls. Wonderful guy, actually, and always been a very, very kind supporter of my work, and the reverse is true, I think. So those are kind of some living vampires that I know that live and breathe today, and there are huge numbers of the community, many of whom prefer to remain anonymous. So I'm not going to start shouting out their names. But in talking with them, really kind of getting to know them, having a little more spiritual discourse with them, there's a lot of inherited practice with vampirism. And in particular, this one author that I worked with years ago wrote about this relationship that his ancestors had in, they were Roma. They lived in Hungary. And they had a sort of donor dom kind of relationship with a local landowner, and that this was actually quite common for the Roma of the time to, they were gypsies. They would move from place to place, and they would take up residence for a time on somebody's land, and in exchange, they would often offer up a young member of their group to go and live in the house with the lord of the manor, essentially, and not necessarily in a sexual relationship, although I think that was implied in many instances, and I do think that is why we have this sort of sexual relationship, or this kind of erotic relationship with vampires by and large today in today's culture. We kind of, we want the vampire to break into our room and bite our neck, whereas the werewolf, we just feel really sorry for. We just kind of want to keep him out in the yard or something.
Yeah, throw a milk bone out there every now and again.
He'll be all right. Keep him, as long as the moon goes down, we'll be okay. But there are a lot of
10 seconds
complicated past that we have with vampires. So that's kind of my not super specific answer to say that I know a few people who identify today as vampires, and their heritage actually claims vampirism at its very core.
On that note, Varla Ventura, I'm going to get you to hold on. We're going to get to more of your questions on Spaced Out Radio coming up in hour number 3. We'll be back.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot THAL. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, we get into Flat Earth, other strange conspiracies. Our guest will be Ronald Farnham. We get going at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back all of you listening in on KCSFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, 99.1 FM, WQEE in Noonan, Georgia, UPRN in New Orleans, Louisiana, and, of course, on digital at Revolution Radio and Deep Talk Radio. Good to have you all with us. Remember, our archives can be found at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Inkunabula is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, pick up some socks, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more at our Spaced Out Radio store, because you'd look good in them. And, of course, you can read up on all the news with the SOR Newswire presented by Captain Shirk. For the final time tonight, we introduce author Varla Ventura. She comes in every couple of months to come hang out with us, be one of us, chill out, hang out. Her website, varlaventura.net. We bring her back in. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
We have a lot of audience questions here coming up.
Okay.
Let's go over to Twitter right off the bat.
Okay.
Andrew is asking, the northern concept of trolls as very massive beings seem to line up with Old English epic poem Beowulf and his battle in Scandinavia with the monstrous Grendel, and later the creature's mother. Could those be trolls?
Yes, actually. I think that there have been a few comparisons to that over, just nerdy folklorist type people. But yes, I do think so, absolutely. And there's something to that sort of Norse mythology. I think that trolls were sort of believed to be more akin to something with the gods. And I think we have come to understand just how important that mythology, today we talk about it and we think, okay, there's Norse mythology or, whatever your religious jam is. Maybe you go to church on Sundays, but you don't necessarily live that every single moment of every stay in the way that the Norse people did. And that is, in fact, what got them to the shores of Scotland. And, this is how they kind of came through and made their stronghold, was based on this ideology that they held to be so true and the practices that they had. So I think that the idea that trolls were kind of more akin to something very godlike and enormous is incredibly viable. And really, when you think about our idea of, I don't know when trolls got smaller in the kind of general cultural folklore. I'm just saying, in my own realm, many people probably grew up thinking, oh, well, trolls have always been giant. But the thing that I think was most distinguishing about some of the things I learned about trolls is that I had always been under the impression that trolls were somewhat homely and almost could sort of recess into the rocks and become like the rocks, not unlike a gargoyle. But in fact, there are many accounts of these gorgeous, shimmering, of course, these incredibly tall, gorgeous Scandinavian trolls are just roaming about up there, and very elusive. You might get a chance to see them. But the idea that trolls were actually enchanting and attractive, much in the description of some of the other fairy folk from the Shetland Islands or places like that, where they were more inclined to be described as beautiful and enchanting and sort of mesmerizing. But absolutely, I think there's a good, strong connection there.
All right, let's move on to another question from Andrew on Twitter. He says, in 2018, the Cottingley Fairies fake photographs created by two English girls in 1917 and fooled Sir Arthur Conan Doyle were auctioned for 10 times their worth. Why is the interest in fairies seem just as strong as it always was in our traditional societies?
Oh, yes, the Cottingley Fairies. That's a great question. I do think that certain creatures wax and wane a little bit. We certainly have gone in and out of vampire crazes at different points in our, more modern culture. But I do think this fascination with fairies, it kind of, even you've got Peter Pan. A lot of those ideas of fairies, like the Cottingley fairies and Tinkerbell and things like that, they came about in the early 1900s during a time when people were really starting to readily share imagery, photographs. At the same time that the Cottingley fairy photographs were created, we had a rash of spiritual or ghost photography starting to take place. This was during the spiritualist movement, in which many people thought that there were messages from beyond. So it wasn't just that we were looking for what was beyond, it was that whatever was beyond was actually had a viable message for the living, and it was a message and a way to live your life or realign your path or whatever. And it kind of ultimately gave way in the 60s to sort of the New Age movement. The spiritualist movement sort of died out in the 30s and 40s. But the idea was that you could get these messages from beyond. It was also a time of great change. We had, everybody was starting to get telephones, and these disembodied voices were in everybody's houses, and electricity was becoming, completely normal, even in more rural areas. And yet things like photographs and photography, it was such a rarity. It was very easy for people to be duped. That is not at all the question. The question was kind of the fascination with the fairy and the fairy realm. I think we have a long-standing relationship with these magical creatures, and that we will always be fascinated because they are just as many supernatural beings are. They're just beyond the periphery. And so we will forever kind of want to know if they were real or if they weren't real. I think that auction sort of shows that either somebody really wanted to say, ha ha ha, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle actually believed these were real and now they're worth all of this money, but they were fake. Or somebody actually wanted to just preserve this record of this ongoing and ever evolving relationship that we have with fairies, folklore, with the idea of supernatural creatures and the sort of stories that we share collectively as a culture. It's sort of become part of our culture.
Interesting. All right, let's go to a new listener here in Terry on Twitter. And she is asking, and by the way, Terry, thank you so much for tuning in to Varla tonight. We really appreciate you doing that. She asks, don't you think it could be a Bigfoot creature that protected the little boy? I would love to have the little boy draw a picture of his bear. What's your thoughts, Varla?
Same thoughts. I would like to see a picture. I certainly wouldn't want to exploit or traumatize the kid anymore, but I would love to see a picture. As I had said earlier, it seemed to me like the initial report sort of dismissed that this kid was delirious and really liked this cartoon character. But I know when I was a child and the things that I saw, had they been dismissed, it would not have made them any less real. Lucky for me, they weren't dismissed. And, I kind of grew up believing in those things as real. But, I don't know. It could be amazing to see the pictures, but it does kind of throw this other light. We have this fear of Bigfoot. This idea that it's going to hurt us somehow. But then, in the 80s, we had Harry and the Hendersons, right? Bigfoot was like this gentle creature next door. Just dating myself a little bit there. But, I think there's definitely the idea that there could be, they could be forest protectors and would it naturally protect a child, a lost child, no less.
All right. Let's move on here. I think we got a question from Carl. And he is asking, not alien Carl, human Carl. We have to make the difference here. He is saying, Varla, why did you say one wants the vampire to break in and bite?
Well, doesn't one, Carl? Or are we going to disagree about this? I think my point in saying that is that we have a cultural relationship, especially in literature and movies, with the vampire being this very sort of gallant, very sort of seducing being, whether it's male or female. And there are countless stories of this way of kind of you don't want the vampire, but yet you do. You fall in love with a vampire, but you don't want to be cursed. So I think that we have this relationship with the vampire as a literary character, as a movie character, as a cultural sort of icon, that it is somehow enticing and appealing. And it all comes down to the idea of immortality. The idea that you can extend your life and not die. That's the sort of core of the vampire myth. Now, if you get back into the folkloric record far enough, especially pre-Bram Stoker, which wasn't terribly long ago, you'll find that the accounts of vampires are not always quite so attractive or appealing, that they're often a little bit like freaky and dumpy and a little scarier and a little more sort of, I guess, common in a fairy-ish sort of way. And certainly fall into that category of something that might just appear in I don't know, some people lump it all in as demons. So I think that's essentially what I was getting at with that statement, is that we actually, we don't mind this idea that this vampire is going to come in and free us from this ordinary life that we have. And in comparison, you might have something like our relationship with the werewolf is totally different culturally, and especially in terms of literature and movies. Our relationship with the werewolf is totally different. We feel sorry for the werewolf. We know that the werewolf doesn't want to hurt anyone, but is cursed and cannot possibly help themselves. And so their own powers are kind of beyond their control, whereas we view the vampire as someone who has embraced their powers. So I think, obviously, I've spent probably far too much time thinking about the just sort of the symbolic role of these very, very core supernatural creatures in our modern everyday life.
All right, let's move on to another question from Andrew here. Oh, maybe we got them all. Oh, no, here it is. He's saying, if it's true that Mars once had majestic civilizations in very ancient times, perhaps millions of years ago, then could there have been a different class of fairies on that planet, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Mars holds this, Mars and so many other possibilities out, so many other planets, and especially ones that may have, I mean, that's our whole thing, is we're looking to see, could they sustain life? Could they have sustained life in the past? And I remember being, a 10-year-old kid and thinking, well, obviously Mars is like us in the future, right? Like that's just what we're going to do to the planet. And then we're going to look back and go, oh, look at that planet over there. That's just the thought that I had. And I think what we all kind of have a little bit of that idea when we're looking at it. Like, well, Mars, it looks like it did have life at one point. And that is a whole other world. I mean, absolutely. There could be, when we say we're looking for life on these other planets, we're looking for a way to scientifically sustain life, something that might have been the building blocks of life, of course. We're not even talking about all of the other dimensions and things that happen as creatures and spirits evolve over time on a planet. We're just actually looking to see if there's like water, right? So, I mean, that's just such a vast world of possibilities there, a universe of possibilities. So sure. I mean, if there can be fairies here, why couldn't there be fairies anywhere else? I don't know if they would still be there. I mean, we don't know. We're just sending our robots out there to find out now. So I feel like we're a little behind the times.
I don't think I've ever asked you this, but do you go researching for your own answers? Do you go out in the bush or the forest where these legends are happening before you write about them? That's if you can get to those areas.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I have access to many of those areas. And again, I'm kind of going back to an earlier question of like, how do these stories even start, or how do these books even start? I lived most of my adult life in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I was raised in the wilds of Northern California, off grid, a lot of time spent poking a stick out in the woods, and learned a lot of things in that process, So I certainly return to a lot of those areas, and in terms of, if I'm researching maybe a place that was haunted, I love to be able to visit that place and see if I had an experience, or probably opposite of that, those are the places that might make it into the book, are places that I have stayed and had an experience, whether I went there looking for that or not. So as much as possible, I do, and I spend, a great deal of time reading. One thing that I do is I find a book by someone I might know as a person that we all know on the subject. For example, when I started researching the fairy book, I looked for a big volume that I've had for 20 years of William Butler Yeats kind of Irish folk tales. And when I read that again as an adult and as a researcher, I started looking through it thinking, okay, there's some little Easter eggs in here. There's some little clues that I can follow to find some other authors and some other examples. And, of course, I travel as much as I possibly can. And whenever I travel, I seek out, I ask people their experiences and listen to what the locals have to say and, stay in the places that have the legends and things like that as much as possible.
We only got about 4 minutes left with you tonight, and I'm curious, in regards, Varla, to the subjects that you're going to cover, what's something that you haven't taken on yet that you are looking forward to doing? What is something that maybe doesn't receive the attention as Bigfoot or Dogman that you want to bring attention to?
Well, one of my reasons for writing about banshees, and the book is actually Banshees, Werewolves, Vampires, and Other Creatures of the Night. And I argued with the publisher about that because they wanted it to be, I think, vampires first or something. It was like the Stephanie Meyer era. And I said, just trust me, banshees, they're going to be the next big thing. Well, banshees, haven't really taken off, but neither have pukas, and I'm okay with that. So for me, I think I've certainly covered some of the topics that I have always been interested in, and I don't know. I think there's just so many more. My next project, I feel like I don't want to jinx myself by saying too much about it, but I really think it's going to be about pirates. And I know there's been a lot written about pirates, and there's a lot what people have to say about pirates. But I have a feeling that I might be able to find a few unique stories when it comes to pirates. So that's kind of my companion book to my mermaid book. That's probably where I'm going. But other than that, I'm incredibly interested in ethnobotany, in particular, the, indigenous uses of plants around the world and how those things relate to folklore and folk culture and healing and medicine. That's been something that I've always been very interested in, and I think is so easily dismissed. Sometimes all of these stories about some kind of creature that's guarding this particular tree and this long-standing mythology comes down to the fact that there is very, very powerful medicine in a plant that grows at the root of those trees, and that mythology exists on purpose to protect that medicine, and that is just as powerful and just as valid as anything you would learn in medical school. So that's another road I sometimes travel down.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you whatsoever. We got about 90 seconds left with you. Do me a favor. Let everybody know where they can find your books, what they can find there, and how to get in touch with you in case they have any weird, strange stories.
Yes, I love and welcome people's strange stories. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. And also, let me just say thank you again to you, Dave, for having me. You're such a gracious host.
Always a pleasure.
I think you've let everyone know that it's varlaventura.net. There's a lot of V's involved in that. And I have all my books available, links to the books. You can buy them anywhere books are sold. They're all in print. And support your local bookstore. Get them however you can get them. I appreciate that. And and that's where I post, what shows I'm going to be on or what projects I'm working on, or sometimes occasional ramblings of my, just things that just pop up into my head that have nothing to do with a book or anything I'm working on. So.
Oh, not a problem. We always love having you here, and we will talk to you again in April.
Sounds good, Dave. Thank you so much.
Probably the first Thursday in April. I think that's what we're going to do. What the heck?
Okay.
Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Varla, thank you so much.
I'm not even going to check my calendar. I'm just going to clear it.
Yeah, just clear it. Well, yeah, you're ours on that date. You're ours on that date.
Got it.
Thank you so much.
I repeat that.
Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Varla Ventura, everybody, on Spaced Out Radio. We will talk to her again in April. Yes, go to her website, varlaventura.net. Pick up her books. They're fantastic. You'll enjoy them. Coming up next, the paranoia legend, Ola Phillips with the SOR Newswire.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
7 days a week. Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We've rounded third. We are heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. And each and every night we bring you the weird, the wacky, the WTF in the news of the day with our man, myth and legend from Paranoia Magazine, Mr. Olaf Phillips. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show. You can find the SOR Newswire on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Just click on the news tab. Captain Shirk has you all set up because our illustrious news director is on top of her game each and every day. Olaf Phillips, glad to have you back from Paranoia Magazine. How are you?
Greetings and salutations, Dave.
Greetings and salutations, my friend. You know, we just had Varla Ventura on the show, and the energy that she shows for all of these topics, whether it's vampires, werewolves, fairies, sprites, whatever it may be, I often wonder, with all of these mythical creatures out there, knowing what I've experienced personally, I don't know if I would want to run into like a vampire or something like that. That's just going a little bit too far. I'll take Bigfoot. I'll take aliens and ghosts. But vampires? Like
werewolves, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like I don't own a gun, so I can't shoot silver bullets at it. Right? I don't want to carry around a necklace of garlic or whatever, or, you know, some wooden stakes. I don't want to be doing that. It seems too illogical too illogical.
Yeah, I enjoy reading about it, but yeah, I don't know that I'd want to meet a vampire.
Why not?
Not really down with that. Bigfoot, I'm cool, but yeah, vampire, no, that's okay.
Well, we bring you in here to do the news, my friend. We bring you in here to do the news, my friend, and you always have a vast array of stories that are weird, wacky, and just unbelievable that they're going on. What are you surprising us with tonight, my friend?
Well, we were a little light on Florida last night, so I'm going to start out with a Florida story. I know you
Beautiful.
used it. Florida man reported missing, believes he's God, and wants to heal and kill people, deputies say. A Florida sheriff's office has been looking for a man who they say believes he is God and wants to heal and kill people, according to news reports. Ariel Raul Rodriguez, 33, of Tampa, of course, is listed among the missing persons cases being handled by the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. According to the missing persons report, Rodriguez was last seen at his family's home around 9 p.m. on Monday. Investigators told Fox 13 in Tampa that Rodriguez had been saying that he was God, and he believes he is the lion mentioned in the Bible, the news station reported. He also reportedly said he wants to heal people and kill people both. Someone claiming to be Rodriguez called the news station late Wednesday afternoon and said that he was in Tallahassee and he was fine. The news station got no immediate response from the investigators on the case.
Didn't David Koresh do something like that as well with the Branch Davidians?
There are a lot of people who have done that. At one point, David Icke claimed that he was, I forget if he was God or if he was the reincarnation of Jesus. It was one of those. But Icke himself did that.
I don't recall hearing that.
Yeah.
Too many impersonators of Jesus and God around here, man.
One day Icke showed up at a news conference wearing white linen and said he was God. I mean, I like Icke. He's definitely very interesting to read, but yeah, he definitely. And then I guess he later backed away from that, but it did happen. It definitely did happen.
Wow. Let's just leave that one where it is. What else do you got for us tonight?
Florida man dances through DUI sobriety test. A Florida man's dancing skills or lack thereof were not able to get him out of a DUI charge on Tuesday. Deputies in Pasco County found Christopher Larson, 33, asleep at the wheel of his truck with his foot on the brake. After he was awakened, Larson began to get out of the truck without putting it in park. Deputies were forced to jump in and stop the truck from moving. However, during his sobriety test, Larson began to dance while attempting to prove he wasn't drunk. The move was a fail, and deputies charged him with a DUI anyway.
He really thought he was going to get away with it too.
Yes, dancing apparently is not a good way to get out of a DUI charge. I'm just going to go out there on a limb.
Yeah, especially if you can't cut a rug. Like if you're trying to pull like the achy breaky heart line dance or something like that, you're never going to win.
I didn't see the video, but apparently the video is quite entertaining.
I want to check that out. You've given me some incentive tonight. Given me some incentive.
Meanwhile, in another part of Florida, Florida man accused of biting Seneca Niagara Casino security manager. A Florida man was arrested Wednesday for allegedly biting a Seneca Niagara Casino security manager who was escorting him from the premises, according to Niagara Falls police. See, Florida sometimes moves out of Florida. Police said Brian L. Benjamin, 65, of Largo, was observed by security around 9:20 p.m. inside the casino after he had been banned from entering the property. As the security manager was escorting Benjamin outside, he allegedly threatened to harm the security manager and attempted to grab something from inside his bag, the bag he was carrying. The security manager told police when he attempted to grab Benjamin's arm, To keep him from going inside the bag, Benjamin allegedly bit down on the manager's right wrist, piercing the skin and causing the wrist to bleed. The security manager was treated at the scene, and Benjamin was transported to Niagara Falls Police Headquarters. Benjamin was charged with 1 count of assault with intent to cause physical injury, according to police. So sometimes Florida gets out of Florida, and then it does Florida somewhere else.
Well, you know what? You just can't be doing Florida somewhere else. You're going to not have a good time. It's not going to be a good time for you. That's just,
frankly,
saying what it is.
You should not be doing Florida in Florida. I skipped the story about the guy who tried to run his kid over for not taking a bath.
Yeah, because that's always smart.
That was big news, but that was a downer, and I was not into the downer today. But I got a good one for you. This is a good one.
Oh, lay it on, man.
Really good, but it's not Florida. But it's southern, I guess. You ready?
I'm ready.
Coca-Cola criticized after creepy as F napkins handed out to plane passengers. Coca-Cola has been criticized by plane passengers for creepy AF napkins, which were handed out on a flight. The branded napkins were given to people flying with Delta Airlines, suggesting they make a move on their plane crush. The white design, which includes a red stripe and an image of a Diet Coke can, reads, "Because you're on a plane full of interesting people, and hey, you never know." The other one is, "Be a little old school. Write down your number and give it to your plane crush. You never know." Then there is a space for people to write their names and phone numbers. Many people have slammed the company for encouraging people to give out unsolicited phone numbers and to gawk at people for hours. Some even called for them to be removed from the planes immediately. Both companies have apologized for any offense caused by the napkins, and they have been removed from the planes.
Who cares? Are we really offended that you find someone attractive and you maybe take a chance at giving them your phone number?
Well, a spokesman for Delta told the Insider, "We rotate Coke products regularly as part of our brand partnership, but missed the mark with this one. We're sorry for that and began removing the napkins from our aircraft."
No, you didn't miss the mark. You're trying to have fun, but this "I'm offended" crap all the time is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
You know, I'll tell you, though, I've never had a plane crush.
I have.
Never.
I'm not going to lie.
Well, I mean, I've seen attractive people on the plane, but it's not like I walk up to them with my creepy Coke napkin and go, "Hey, this is my phone number." I mean,
why not?
You just kind of look over there and go, like, "Oh, you're hot."
Why not, though? Why can't you do that? Why can't you be, in a polite way, be a little forward and direct and say, "Hey, I find you attractive. I would love to take you out for dinner sometime, and if you're ever in the Boston area or whatever it is, give me a phone call." What's wrong with that?
I think it's because you're trapped inside of a metal can, and you can't.
Well, I can understand the creeps on that, but people got to lighten up a little bit.
Well, I got one last news story for you, and this is going to blow your mind.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Working USB thumb drive found in leopard seal poop. New Zealand researchers examining a leopard seal's fecal sample that had been frozen for a year made a surprising discovery: a working USB thumb drive.
Wow.
The New Zealand National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research said a volunteer thawed out a scat sample about the size of 2 bread rolls and discovered the leopard seal had apparently passed the USB drive through its digestive system. The researchers said the scat sample had been collected in November 2017 from a leopard seal on Oretti Beach in Invercargill, Cargill. The NIWA said researchers plugged the USB drive in and were surprised to discover it still worked and contained photos and videos from an unknown person's vacation. The research clues to the owner's identity are images and videos showing the photographer wearing blue shorts and a kayak. NIWA officials said they would like to return the USB drive to its owner, but for a price. They want a replacement leopard seal stool sample. That's a hell of a price.
No, it is. It is.
It is.
I mean,
a little much.
Oh, I don't.
Hey, you want your vacation photos back? Go make that seal poop.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. That just is
weird.
Very, very weird.
WTF.
That's why we do this. Olaf, tell everybody where they can find Paranoia Magazine.
ParanoiaMagazine.com, Paranoia Magazine on Facebook, The Paranoid Traveler on YouTube and Vimeo, and of course the Paranoia Podcast, which is updated once a week. It's on Alexa, and you can access it on iTunes.
Right. Let's do it. Let's get to it. You ready? I was so excited about the thought of the day, I accidentally hit the music while you were speaking because I'm so excited about this. I know.
Like amateur hour, Dave. Gotta work on that.
Totally. Isn't that the truth? Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and then we read your responses on the air. Why? Because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What is your town's... Oh, that's yesterday's. Darn it. I read yesterday's. That's yesterday's. Here it is. I got it right here. Yeah, the haunted police car was a good one. What is the scariest cryptid out there, and why would you not want to run into it? Gabe. Dogman and werewolves? Hell no! Not at all. Keep them away. Tina. She's afraid of Dogman, too. She says, no need to explain why. See, I'd like to see one of these dogmen, because if I'm going hunting dogmen, first place I'm heading is the pet store, Olaf. First place I'm heading is the pet store. I'm going to grab the biggest box of milk bones and a bunch of tennis balls. Because I don't care how ferocious that dogman is, there is no dog out there that will turn down a good tennis ball chase. You know what I'm saying?
Milk bones, tennis balls, and an AK-47 in case it runs at you.
Yeah, exactly. Joe, the Kraken, because it's really big. That would be scary. That's one of the reasons why. Between Kraken and Megalodon and Great Whites, yeah, old Dave doesn't go in the ocean. I'm a meal.
Cthulhu.
Yes. Reverend Keith, Dogman. After hearing hours of witness testimony, there seems to be nothing good from this creature. There is a genetic memory in humans that is triggered by the idea of wolves. We invited wolves into our campfires, and those became dogs. However, some refused to come into the light, and we have never forgiven them for it. Sandra, Bat Squatch, a big hairy flying thing. I've never heard of Bat Squatch. Is that seriously a cryptid?
I don't know. I haven't gotten a Bat Squatch in my cryptid crate yet. Hey, cryptid crate people, get on that.
Well, Sandra apparently says it's a thing that has been sighted near Mount St. Helens and Mount Shasta.
Really?
We're going to have to look into that one. You get on that, man, because I want to hear. Yeah, you're close by.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I am.
Tim, Dogman, upright bipeds. That's close to it. It sounds like it is intense and don't play well with others. Stunak says Mothman. Don't need to be hovering around that.
Well, it's also the implication, right? If you see Mothman, you know bad stuff's coming.
Oh, yes.
There's no good in Mothman. You see Mothman, it's like get out of Dodge.
Uncle Dale and his power stash say skinwalkers. As the Navajo lore goes, a bear or mountain lion with the intelligence of a man who likes to injure and kill humans would be almost unstoppable. And if you did kill it, good luck explaining to the police that the dead guy in the bear belt was actually a bear when you shot it. Awkward. Good one, Uncle Dale. I think that was the Power Stash that wrote that. Uncle Dale's not that creative. The Power Stash is. Captain Shirk. By appearance, I would say the Pukwudgie. Although it's actually hard to fear a little 2-foot-tall human-like creature with an attitude and tiny little arrows. He's like a hairy, crankier version of Yosemite Sam. We got some good ones today. John, Megalodon, simply because it was the biggest, most terrifying shark that ever lived. Supposedly extinct, but the Coelacanth and Megamouse shark are just two examples. What's that? Coelacanth? Coelacanth? Coelacanth. Why wouldn't they use an S? See that now the clam is going to use that one for a password. It's going to mess me right up. I know.
Science.
Let's see. Kelly, from hearing those stories I hear from Butch Witkowski, I would say I wouldn't want to try and pet or give treats to any dog, man. Aussie Rob, how's tomorrow looking? He says, some of those fae can be rather scary, not the cutesy type, but the huge things that come out of the swamps. Penman gets the final word. Gnome Squatch. Small but badass. There is nothing like having an irrational fear of something that doesn't exist. Oh, we'll throw ad gnomes in there as well. Man Bear Pig. Because gnome. And for our new listeners down in California, Dave used to have a fear of gnomes. I am now one with the gnomes. So they keep trying to rattle me with this gnome talk because I used to be deathly fearful of them. But not anymore. I've gained my strength. All for the gnomes. All for the gnomes.
I don't get why you're afraid of gnomes.
No, it's the pointy hats, my friend.
Cute little Smurf-looking guys that run around and
I know.
What are you afraid of?
I know. You know, I don't like cotton balls either, my friend, but we got to wrap this thing up. Olaf, thank you so much for coming on in. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And you can find all of your news by going to our website, spacedoutradio.com. Click on the news tab. News director, Captain Gail Shirk, will have everything ready for your eyes to read each and every moment. Tomorrow night on the show, Ronald Farham joins us to talk flat earth and other strange conspiracies. We also give a shout-out to Varla Ventura for joining us as our guest tonight. She'll be back on in the first week of April 4th to be exact. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, in our chat rooms, and wherever you may be. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for telling your friends, doing your part to make us better and bigger every single night. Because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.